Not long after Martin Shkreli, former CEO of Turing Pharmaceuticals, and Heather Bresch, the current CEO of Mylan Pharmaceuticals, instituted giant price hikes for drugs that really, in reality, cost very little to make. There's another company that is again hiking the price of a potentially life-saving drug in order to make an outsized profit. Now, this is from a small Virginia company called Kaleo. Now, they make a injector device called Evzio. Now, look, Evzio is a drug that has something called naloxone in it. It's actually more of an injector device for naloxone. Now, they have seen their demand for this auto-injector in the drug thanks to the unfortunate use of opioids. We have an opioid epidemic. So again, this demand for this drug and this injector in general, made by Evzio, or made by Kaleo, is fueled by what's going on is a national emergency when it comes to drugs. Now, again, the injector is used to deliver naloxone, which is a life-saving antidote to overdoses of opioids. Now, according to data from 2015, more than 33,000 people are believed to have died from such overdoses of opioids. So now this injector, what it can do is it can literally save somebody's life because it counteracts an overdose. So look, that makes sense, right? And now, unfortunately, because of the demand for this product, the privately held firm has now raised the price of one twin pack from $690 in 2014 to $4,500 for a pack of two now. So what in the hell, man? That is insane. That is an enormous jump. Now, the company, Kaleo, was founded by twin brothers Eric and Evan Edwards. Now, the company first sought to develop an EpiPen competitor thanks to their own food allergies. So they're like, hey, we would like to go into business. We would actually like to go and create a competitor for the EpiPen. And so, we can bring this life-saving drug to somebody else. I guess somewhere along the way, they were bitten by greed. So they've taken that model and they've taken that auto-injector to try to combat the opioid epidemic for some profit. Now, there is some difference between the auto-injector and, let's say, the EpiPen. Now, the thing that's special about Evzio is that it ends up talking the users through the process as they inject the naloxone. Now, the company says the talking device is worth this new price because, quote, it can guide anyone to jab an overdose victim correctly, leave the needle in for the right amount of time, and potentially save his or her life. So, look, that's obviously an amazing feature. That's great. It can save lives. However, the one argument that I have against that is if you price it like this, $4,500 for two of them, well, nobody can afford your product because, look, you've raised the price so much that no one can afford it and you can't save anybody's life. It's crazy. And look, I understand the laws of supply and demand, right? And yes, even the price of the naloxone itself has been climbing. So it does cost a little bit more to make. But again, that as well is attributed to corporate greed and demand. For example, a 10 millimeter vial sold by one of the dominant vendors cost close to about $150. Now, that is a price increase of double from that of a few years ago, and actually far beyond the production costs of naloxone, according to researchers who researched this topic. Now, the other common injectable, which comes in a smaller, more potent dose, costs closer to $40, which is actually double its 2009 cost. So you've seen, thanks to this demand, this opioid epidemic that's happening in the Midwest, the price of these drugs, thanks to capitalism, has gone up. Still, there are experts that look at all this and say, yeah, we see the price of the drug has gone up, but there's still no reason that you should be charging so much for this. In fact, this is a needless drain on our healthcare system. Leo Beletsky, an associate professor of law and health sciences at the Northeastern University in Boston, said, quote, "There's absolutely nothing that warrants them charging what they're charging. The device has been invaluable to patients, says Eliza Wheeler of San Francisco's Harm Reduction Coalition, which is a nonprofit that works to combat overdoses and has received even donations of this drug. But she says at $4,500 a package, I might have $10,000 to spend on naloxone for a year to supply a whole city. If I have 10 grand to spend, I certainly can't even buy 2 Evzios. Insane. Now, of course, the company is defending their price hikes by saying, hey, man, look how innovative our design is. We're the only ones that have it. We came up with it, and so we deserve to make a little bit of a profit. And as well as help people. Well, again, if somebody can't afford your product, or if most people can't, you're not going to help anybody. Now, this is a quote from Mark Herzog, who was Kaleo's vice president of corporate affairs. Now, in an email, he said that most earlier naloxone devices were developed, designed, and intended for use in medically supervised settings. Prior kits, for example, contained a pre-filled syringe. The Evzio, he says, was the first to help lay people dispense the drug, and competition is limited. One of the few consumer-friendly alternatives to Evzio is a nasal spray device for naloxone. So, look, in that, Herzog hits on something super important. You have a lack of competition. Well, since we're the only ones making it, we can end up gouging people, but hey, look at how innovative our device is, so we can charge what we want. So we think that it's worth jacking up the price. And look, I get it. Our system allows that, but not only allows it, it incentivizes that. Because at the end of the day, it's all about how much profit you can squeeze out of something to please not only your bottom line, but the shareholders as well. And yes, the injector is innovative and it is helpful. But at the same time, you can't price it out of reach just because there's a little bit more demand, especially when you can still manufacture it almost as cheaply as you did before, even with the price hike of the drug. We have this system that is built on profit. And the thing is, too, is that, I mean, you could be saying, well, why? Okay, well, you could just get the naloxone and whatever, and, have an injection on hand without using this special auto injector. I mean, you could still get that pretty cheaply, right? Well, again, same thing with the EpiPen. If you try to do it incorrectly, if you don't know what you're doing, you might end up killing that person instead of saving their lives. So that's the consideration. And look, the entire reason that the Evzio device is so widely needed is because there is not always somebody around that knows what they're doing, that knows how to do this correctly, that knows where to inject it, when, for how long, and how much. So that's why it's important. This could save lives if it were more accessible. Right now, this is inaccessible. And the shame not only lies in the company. No, what the company is doing is that they're doing capitalism. They're saying, well, we're using the system the way that everybody else uses the system. We got to make a profit. Our shareholders got to benefit. So we're going to do what we're going to do. We're going to do what we have to do in order to continue to make that profit. And it's in such demand. So we're just gonna follow the laws of supply and demand. And look, to be fair, they have given out plenty of these to schools, libraries, and stuff like that. But at the same time, not even that, doing all that should justify the cost, especially when it's still fairly cheap to make. The system is broken. And that's why I don't necessarily blame the company itself. I don't even blame Mylan as much. And I don't even blame, and I hate to say it, Turing Pharmaceuticals all that much. Yes, they share in blame. But I think the real problem here is the system. This is that same system that did allow Martin Shkreli to gouge people on Daraprim. Or the same system that allowed the Mylan CEO, Heather Bresch, to gouge people with the EpiPen. We've got to fix the system. And look, people see these stories and they get pissed and, they get angry and they write letters and do all this stuff. But in the end, the system has not changed. Maybe Mylan hands out some coupons, which they did, or They Turing Pharmaceuticals, fires Martin Shkreli and then slightly takes back the price a little bit, and maybe they do some press tours and they talk about how charitable they are, and like this guy's doing, or their donations of drugs to schools and libraries, but it does not solve the problem of us having a healthcare system that is based not on health outcomes, but mainly on corporate profits. That is where the problem lies. And until we as a nation address that elephant in the room, we're going to continue to see stories like these pop up every once in a while, where unfortunately the majority of people, they get pissed off about it and then they forget about it until we move on to the next one. I actually want to fix this system. I actually want to do something better so that we no longer incentivize profits over people, because that's not the way our healthcare system is supposed to work. Hey everybody, thanks for watching this video. If you want to see more like this, please hit the subscribe button below. And if you want to support truly independent, non-corporate media, go to our Patreon page and become a patron, patreon.com/TYTNation.